Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. Now today we're going to be either upcycling these doors or using new planks to build the built-in bench area at the rear of the cottage. Now there's pros and cons for both, but before I share with you what I actually used, let's get the framework done and get this underway. What would you use? So to help you make your mind up, here's a few things to consider. So we've got the availability. Yep, I can get as many of these as I need from the wood merchants. We've got the cost, €5 for a 3 metre length. We've got the time saved by using this material, relatively simple and quick to put up. And of course we've got the finish. It's not going to take too much to finish this off, a light sand and maybe a stain. So they're just a few things to consider. The overall aesthetics, is it going to pick up with the surroundings? Does it match? Is it going to jar? Some of the few considerations us builders need to make when we're doing these renovations. Next, a few things to consider when using old recycled material. Firstly, availability. Now these are pretty much almost impossible to find. Billy gave me these when I was working at the convent project with him. So scarcity, yes, if you make a mistake, it's hard to go and find another one. We've also got the overall aesthetics. Will it match in? Yeah, pretty much so. But this is one of the drawbacks. When you're using recycled material, you've got different dimensions, different thicknesses, different sizes. And how many do you actually cut up and sacrifice for the actual few that you actually need? So that's weighing heavy on my mind at the moment. Have I got somewhere else for them? Yes, quite possibly. So they're just a few considerations that I have to make when using recycled materials. Yes, they're a little bit cheaper sometimes if they're donated to you. We've got some facts there, so what would you do in my position? Okay, well you'll have to wait until the video gets going to find out what I actually used. Do like these though. So first I need to find a suitable piece of wood for the seat. This looks perfect, does need a bit of preparation. Let's get it outside and have a look. Yep, that will clean up lovely. Let's get it over there. Well, it's certainly long enough and it's deep enough. Brilliant, just the piece. So now I've just got to determine how much of an overhang I'm going to have and what I'm going to face this off with. When you're making a bench, there's certain dimensions that you really need to try and stick to make it user friendly and comfortable. So I'm just trying to work that out at the moment. I would like to get my measurements pretty accurate. I don't want to be cutting this too many times. This is nearly 60mm. That's well over 2 inches, about 2¼ inches actually. Quite a sizable piece. It's pine. I've had it for quite a few years in my store, saving it for a specific area and use. And this is it, I think. Really strong, lovely and rustic piece. Now I recovered this from an old farmhouse. I've got about 4 or 5 planks like this. And believe it or not, this was the actual flooring area in part of the barn outside. Okay, let's just do it justice now. Yeah, it needs plenty of sanding and a bit of woodworm treatment, but other than that, it's got quite a few years left in it yet. like a glove. Yeah, a bit of a high spot there. I can get around that. It needs to come up to the left, which that high spot indicates. We're going to sit this on a bed of lime. I'm going to put some fixings in on the underside so you don't see any top fixings. Also got a stone ledge there. I think I'm going to put a timber across there just as a bit of a footrest, and then I'll bring the other timber down on the top, and that way it'll get rid of this foundation stonework. We can cut this back to the appropriate depth. That might be okay. Then got to design the backrest. And this needs to rake back at a slight angle, probably about 5 degrees, but enough just to make it comfortable. Some adjustments, but at this stage we're just literally dry fitting it. As ever, there's lots of design considerations I have to factor in, but that kind of makes it rather quirky in my eyes. And I think we're going to have a really good end product with this. Still yet to talk about what's going to go on the backrest. I'll share that with you a little later because I'm 99% sure what I'm going to do with it. But sometimes a few design hiccups can change all that. Boy, that's heavy. So already you can see the natural beauty. This piece of timber, it's well over 100 years old. There's still plenty of years left in it still. Just here we've got a carpenter's mark. On the other pieces I've got different marks on them, so yeah, very, very old. This is just the first pass. We will sand it properly once it's all finished. And then the wind blew the camera over. Lucky it didn't smash. And then it was time to prepare the underside of the timber before I could do some woodworm treatment. Now for a coat of woodworm treatment. The cottage has already been treated, but I don't want to introduce any fresh woodworm. That's it, that's my template. 6 to cut. Now you make your mark. I normally tack a screw in there if it's not a tight fit, or it is a tight fit. And then screw in from the other side. Same again. Now if you've got multiple cuts or a skill saw, circular saw like so. So here's our template, angle already cut on that, you just flip it over, mark the other end. Now a handy little tip here, around the side. This we're going to cut off in a minute, right the way through. So this area is waste in the middle. Now what I like to do when I'm using a skill saw, because once you start off, that line there soon disappears in the mouth of the skill saw, so project that further that way. Just remember not to cut right through. And the same with this angle here. Now when it comes to cutting this small little piece here, this will help us remember not to continue past that with your blade. So as you can see, it disappears. You cut with your handsaw. I'm working backwards so you can see how to do it. And it does pay to clamp your work. So you're only cut through on the other side to there, even though we're there. Keep this vertical as well. When you come to the last bit, you get a nice square cut. Hope it fits now after all that. Looks like we've got another storm coming. Our last two cut. That's probably about it. Yes, lucky enough we're in the cottage that doesn't actually leak. The two buildings joining either side do leak, but this actual roof, you know, I repaired it a long time ago, doesn't actually leak, so hopefully we are dry if it pours down. There we go, nice and secure. We'll get some fixings through the back here, like I say, once I'm happy with everything in line, which it looks pretty good. Spot on. Nice weather if you're a duck. Let's try this for size. I've done the woodworm treatment on here, and even that has just brought out the colour. But once I give it a sand and a wax, that will look fantastic. This will work better. Several reasons. There's quite a bow in this piece here. Now I'm thinking the best way to pull it out is put a straight piece on top and fix down. That will certainly help. Might not get rid of it completely. Doesn't matter too much about the height. Still got loads of depth here. I just think that will work better. Like I say, nothing's fixed in place. I can move it about and do whatever is best. As soon as I push down on that, that's levelling it up. I think that will be a better finish. Still plenty of space to sit on there. Can pull this out a little bit more if need be. Perfect. Yeah, I think I'll go for that. Yes, the fact that it's bowed slightly does give it character. But it is something to consider when you're doing your projects, whether or not you use new versus old. In this instant, I can pretty much work with it, but when it comes to the back stand. You know, I thought long and hard about what material I'm going to use on the back stand. You think about using the doors. I've measured them, I've inspected them, and I've kind of weighed up the pros and cons. Because they're not all symmetrical, it was very difficult not to have to ruin lots of doors just to get a few sample pieces that would work here. So what I've decided to do is go with the cladding on the back. Now, I will be using the doors elsewhere, not on this section here, but somewhere else in the cottage or in my house. So when you're doing these projects, you know, you have to weigh up the cost, the time. Is it suitable? Will the end result be better or worse with the reclaimed material? Now, as you're probably well aware, I'm all for reclaimed materials. Doesn't mean it's not going to get used, it will. Just that sometimes you have to think long and hard about what you're going to use. Don't just use it just because it's recycled, you know. There's a time and a place for all of that kind of stuff. This, probably not the best use for those doors. Okay, next job is to get this reclaimed plank off of there. I think reclaimed in this situation is probably a better option. If I was to put new on there, A, it won't look as good as this, and B, there's probably as much work in a new piece to get it looking like this than the old piece. So again, pros and cons, cost. This would cost a lot of money to buy. These you'd really struggle to buy, to be honest with you. You don't see them. Billy Peverick gave me these when I was working at the convent with him. Kindly gave, I think there was 8 in total doors from there. So yeah, I'm going to put them to good use. I just don't want to cut them up. My eyes, ruin them here. Plenty of character in this place, and it'll all be covered with cushions anyway. And it picks up the theme in the kitchen and that. So yeah, it's a well thought out thing actually. It's not a snap decision. Time is a big consideration as well. There's lots of ironwork on the back of these with the locks. You'll probably break them and damage them, and yeah. And it's pouring down. And my new wood is soaked. Hopefully it's just the top 2 planks. I've actually got a great idea what I'm going to do with these doors. But I'll cover that in another video when it comes closer to actually putting them in place where I want them to go. But for now, let's concentrate on this area. So next job is to lift this off. The woodworm treatment's nice and dry now, safe to handle. We're going to flip it over, put some fixings on the underside, then we're going to bed that on some mortar. That way we haven't got to fix through the top of any unsightly fixings. This one side. Don't want to be lifting this too far because it weighs a ton. Now that's not to say that new wood isn't bowed, because to be quite honest with you, sometimes the new wood is a lot worse than the reclaimed wood. You know, this has done all the moving and twisting that it's going to do. It's now up to me to coax it back a little bit straighter, but not much. So if you used new wood that's really bad, you know, sometimes it's not always possible when you go to the wood yard to examine every single piece. I know a lot of the time when it gets loaded on in bundles, you get home, you undo the strap and it's just terrible. Have you had that experience? Because I have, for sure. So before we set it onto the mortar, let's dry fit it, make sure everything is in place. That's pretty good. We're just starting to pull out a slight curve and bow. It's very important that I get a good fixing over this end, just to take that bounce out. Time to show you how to scribe that baseboard in. First we need to get it level. You're going to need one of these, one of them. And simply run the washer and the pencil along the board. The pencil must sit snugly in the washer, no movement, but be able to turn. Next, it's time for the jigsaw. Trim and replace. There we go, it's roughly scribed in. I could continue planing to get it absolutely spot on, but it's not far out. There we go, that is initially the first stage of the bench fitted. What do you think? Now the top section, when I come to do it, will be mostly rendered with a few stones showing like that. I think that's rather a nice contrast. Keep this area nice and light. That was another consideration about this area, using the planks. I can give these like a lime wash to really lighten this area. I think if I went for these doors, they are a little dark, and we haven't got any natural light this end, so I think that will benefit greatly from light wood. So yes, after all things considered, I decided to opt for the planking. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 planks in this section. There will be some more down below. So we're looking at €25 as opposed to, well, they were free, the doors, but I just could not bring myself to cut them up. Could you? After all, they're 18th century. Well, did I make the right choice? Let me know in the comments. That is it for this video. Thanks for watching.